So good morning, everybody. Bienvenidos. Welcome to the President of the European Parliament. I want to start by just saying that we are having a very difficult time in Spain today. We had a terrible storm in Valencia. There are still people missing. Our teams are working to help both our employees and our customers. And we would like to have a minute, actually a moment of silence to remember the families and those affected. Thank you very much. So we have the honor of having the President of the Parliament with us today, so I'm going to just make a very brief introduction to set the scene and the context of today's conference. We are going to think about what it means to grow in a world that is disrupted. We all know the challenges we face, the debt, demographics, defense spending, which has to go up, and of course, transition to green. And the issue here is that this has to be paid for. And the question is then who and how we pay for this. It is clear, I think, to all of us that given the levels of government debt, not just in Europe actually, but worldwide, it's about corporate profits and personal taxes. I just want to show here, this is one fact that we shared a few days ago when we presented our results. You know, it's important for us to remember that all the social services, all the education, and prosperity comes from corporate profits and personal taxes. Santander, as a group, globally paid 29%. That's over 4 billion euros in the first 9 months in corporate taxes. And obviously, where we say customers, that is loans, which also helps to power growth. And finally, shareholders, who are the ones that give us the funds. This is another fact for us to consider. If, since the turn of the century, Europe had grown as much as the United States, we would have 11 million more jobs and 300 billion more in taxes. That would help 60% lower deficit for Europe as a whole. And finally, I'm not going to give here all the answers, but I do want to propose some ideas. I think they're pretty obvious. We all know them. First is productivity, increasing productivity. Mario Draghi in his report and others have said this, would allow us to increase growth by 1.2%. AI is one of the things that could help us. A second idea for us to consider is a more balanced mandate to regulators, supervisors. This is not just finance, by the way. It's all sectors. Sustainable growth, I think, is something we all want. That is not the mandate that regulators have today in Europe. And this is just an example. Again, these are numbers from Draghi. 13,000 new rules, 5,500 new rules in the US in a comparable period. So we are making more rules and regulations. This is both laws and regulations that we have enacted over the past few years. Again, another idea, we're not saying to go backwards. We're saying let's take pause. Let's see what we've done together. A lot of good things over the last decades. Just as an indication of what's happening to the financial sector, today in Europe, banks account for 38 trillion in loans. Non-banks account for more, 42 trillion. Obviously, these are entities that don't have a direct relationship with customers. So how much of this is enough? That's another fact that I think is important. There are many opportunities. We all know that the transition to green will be a big item to finance, 2.8 trillion per year in clean energy investment, but also the transition from many brown sectors. And it's not just about Europe. If the world doesn't transition, and there are ways Europe can help finance that growth through banks and others, it's not going to work. And finally, this is something which has been going on for many years, a single market in services. Scale matters, and so we could have, I mean, the estimate, again, from one of the reports is that the effective tariff on Europe is about 100% tariff across European countries because of not having a single market. It's costing us a lot to not do this faster. Here is a summary. We can choose one or the other. I think we all agree higher growth is the only way to finance everything our economy, our citizens, our companies need. And there is a way to a positive flywheel, as you can see on the right, on the left actually, and on the right there is the one that is not very attractive. So as a summary, and I leave it here, we do have a choice. It's an urgent choice. I think Europe we need to together take action. Do we want higher growth and more prosperity, or the issues that we'll be discussing today that will eventually lead to less growth and also other issues for our society? So that is really it for context. Again, these are just facts that we should bear in mind. And please, Roberta, President, please, would you join me, and James?